at this very moment, these graduates are effectively identical, holding the same degrees, the same marks, and the same promise of a career. But 10 years later, that parity has entirely vanished. One reaches the top floor of a major enterprise, while the other remains stuck in a cycle of mediocre jobs, never quite making the leap. We often look at a gap this wide and assume it must be intelligence, family wealth, or perhaps just a stroke of lucky timing. But often, none of those factors are present. Instead, we find the presence of excusitis, a psychological habit of leaning on health, age, or misfortune to explain away a lack of progress. These excuses act as a protective barrier against the discomfort of growth. This suggests that the divergence between these two paths comes down to the size of their thinking. While one person focuses on why a goal is impossible, the other's brain is free to look past those small problems and search for expansive solutions. Visualize your internal struggle as a factory with two managers, Mr. Triumph for positive production and Mr. Defeat for failure. Say I can't, and Mr. Defeat pulls files of past failures. Lead with belief, and Mr. Triumph takes over, focusing on how to do it. To keep Mr. Triumph in charge, you have to stop indulging in age-based excuses. Telling yourself you are too young or too old is just another way of handing the factory keys back to Mr. Defeat. Take Harlan Sanders. He didn't begin building his global franchise until he was 65. If the biological clock was a barrier, his story wouldn't exist. When you hesitate, you give your brain time to manufacture new fears. Physical action is the most direct way to interrupt that feedback loop of anxiety before it has a chance to take root. This starts with small, deliberate choices. Sit in the front row, walk 25% faster, and make direct eye contact. Starving your brain of excuses requires more than just willpower. It requires a commitment to immediate, confident physical movement. Broadening your outlook starts with a change in the specific words you use to describe a setback. A small thinker describes a challenge as impossible or a failure. A big thinker looks at the same data and says, "We will find a way," or "This is a learning opportunity." Your vocabulary dictates the limits of your solutions. This is the essence of creative thinking. It isn't a rare talent reserved for artists. It is simply the practical habit of looking for a better way to do a standard job. The most dangerous trap is traditional thinking, the belief that you should do something simply because it's always been done that way. This rigid mindset is where progress goes to die. To break that mold, you must also address your self-image. Dressing for the role you want and running a mental commercial of your own strengths isn't about vanity. It's about convincing your mind you are capable. Realizing a massive vision requires you to identify and replace rigid traditions with a more deliberate way of seeing yourself and the words you use. Your mind digests whatever your environment feeds it. If you spend your time on gossip and small-minded critics, your thinking will shrink to match them. You have to seek out people who challenge you to grow. True leadership follows a service-first model. When you make a point to treat everyone, from the front desk to the boardroom, as important, you build the cooperation necessary to achieve large-scale results. The transition from a concept to a result happens in a very specific moment, the decision to begin despite imperfect conditions. This chart shows the mechanics of momentum. Procrastination creates a downward spiral, where waiting only makes the fear grow. But taking action now creates an upward spiral where each step reinforces your confidence. When setbacks happen, avoid the temptation to blame bad luck. Instead, find the specific lesson hidden in the defeat and use it to adjust your next move. Your current reality is a reflection of what you believe is possible. If you want a larger life, start by doubling the size of your goals and moving toward them today.